Rumi said this: yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I'm changing myself. I think we've all been through that, haven't we? I'm going to go out and I'm going to change the world, when in reality all we can really do is change here. And I don't mean that to minimize that, because that's huge. That is huge, because what we have on the inside we're sharing on the outside. And that is the mission of forgiveness, to understand in order to live a full life, we can only change ourselves. Our soul's journey is about moving beyond fear. It's about moving beyond that duality by coming to terms with the oneness of everything, of all of us. And to learn that we're not separated from God, and that any energies that we may fear are simply illusions. They're simply beliefs that we've held on to for some time, for whatever reason. And I know that's a big statement, that the fears we hold on to are simply illusions. I would invite you to really sit with that. Especially in light of everything that's going on, right? Because there is so much fear among us. The intention of living forgiveness is to grow beyond who we think we are. Grow beyond this human physical body. To move beyond our story. To reopen our heart that has become constricted maybe by old hurts or disappointments. To recognize the truth is that we are all one humanity, one human family, and that everybody has stuff, problems, concerns, fears. Everybody gets those fun things. However, together, through love, through forgiveness, we grow and experience the freedom to live as we were intended to live, in peace, in harmony, and with the abundance of all things. And when we experience that freedom, we can then walk through life with an open heart, without the worry of being judged or criticized or ridiculed for our belief system, our thought processes, because we understand that love is the answer to any question that will ever arise. And that reality is all about perception. And perception is not always the truth, with a capital T. Everything we see and experience is a reflection of our own thoughts, of our own attitudes, of our own belief system. And that's how we see the world, right? Through our own eyes, through our own personal perception. And here's the really great news. We have the ability, and dare I say we are called to, change our perception of what we call reality, of what we call things going on out there. The purpose of our life while we're here on this planet is to expand and to grow. And we are always doing that, whether it's conscious or unconsciously, because we're trying to develop, we're working to develop more of who we truly are and bring ourselves into balance and be open to the bigger picture. And you know what helps us keep in check with that? Our relationships. Have you ever noticed that? They let us know, our relationships let us know where we are in that growth process. So whatever it is you're working on to heal or forgive in your life, that forgiveness is imperative. It's what we have to do, whether it's forgiving yourself or someone else or a particular situation. We must forgive in all cases without resentment if we want to experience that freedom. I know that's a big call, isn't it? We have to keep in mind that we all make mistakes. We all, at the same time, we all breathe the same air. We all cry tears. And that is because we are of the same human family. And we all experience hurt and pain just in different ways. Fred Luskin, co-founder of the Stanford Forgiveness Project, was quoted as saying this: "Forgiveness concepts are simple, it's the execution that's hard." Who didn't know that? Most of us have been brought up with the idea that forgiveness is a good thing. Unfortunately, that doesn't always play out too easily, as he stated. However, forgiveness is vital to our mental, our emotional, and our physical well-being, actually. It allows us to live and stay in the present moment and not in the past. And while unforgiveness gives us that feeling of false power, forgiveness will give us that real freedom. When we hold on to hate and anger and resentment, that pain never goes away. It stays with us. We find ourselves sometimes hoping that they pay for what they did. Or maybe that they're going to get on their knees and ask us for forgiveness. Wouldn't that be lovely? We have high expectations. We have thoughts of a perfect world, when in reality, we've caused pain to others too, either knowing or not knowing. But we've all done that. And the fact is, we all have a story to tell. We all have someone who has hurt us and someone whom we have hurt. And so forgiveness will allow us to open back up, to crack that heart back open, and be willing to hear what people have to say. Be willing to own whatever stuff we have through that situation. So we practice forgiveness to develop unconditional love, to develop that peace in our life, that well-being, actually in all of our relationships, not just within ourselves. It's a gift that provides us the freedom from suffering, from painful memories. And if we leave it unresolved, it will cloud our path to finding that balance that we're always searching for in our lives. I read that forgiveness is the missing piece, P-I-E-C-E, to the peace, P-E-A-C-E, puzzle. Don't you love that? And that means that peace within ourselves, within others, and within the world. Because in truth, it's all the same thing. And here's what I know. We forgive others not for their sake necessarily. We forgive others because we deserve the peace that it brings to us. And those around us will benefit because we're less likely to carry that anger, that resentment into other situations. And we're much less likely to displace that anger to people who have nothing to do with the original issue. Scientific studies demonstrate that as people forgive, they become less angry, less depressed, less anxious, and more hopeful of their future. In other words, when people become more peaceful within themselves, making the possibility of peace with others much more likely. And here's another scientific reality. While refusing to forgive doesn't directly cause illness or disease, the negative impact of holding on to painful memories or past wounds weakens our immune system. And that makes us more susceptible to illness. There was a study carried out by 3 major universities, Duke University, University of Tennessee, and Stanford University, and this is what it said. Holding on to hurts, grudges, annoyances, pet peeves, or old wounds hurts the body, especially when the memories are triggered by current life events. I'm going to guess we've all experienced that when we have that trigger. Because if something happens today that reminds you of something in the past, that trigger gets set off, doesn't it? And we tend to react instead of thoughtfully respond. And unless and until we find that peace with that trigger, through forgiveness, it will continue to happen. Now, that same study confirmed a physiological link between negative emotional states, like revengeful thinking and actions, and how it produces stress on our physical body. And they found that stress from revenge or hateful thoughts also will lower your immune system. And that leaves you, again, vulnerable to that illness. And it also asserts that people who are able to forgive can actually modify their heart rate, lower their blood pressure, and decrease physical pain, and even relieve depression. Now, who knew that one thought you've been carrying on for 20 or 30 years and holding so deep inside of you could cause that much of an issue? Well, it can. And that's why it's so important, in that meditation, is to release it and cleanse it and let it go. Don't forget it. Nobody's asking you to do that, right? Just let it up and out for your physical well-being. That said, why would anyone want to live their life unhappy, grumpy, angry, and fearful? We all know someone like that, right? It's much more useful for us to wake every morning and affirm the truth. I know who I am. I know I'm a perfect, whole, complete, beautiful being, a child of the divine. I know that. There's no one or nothing that can harm me with words or actions in my reality. Those things cannot hurt our soul. We all have essentially the same purpose on this planet, to bring love, joy, and balance to our lives and to the lives of others through our words and our actions. Wake up in the morning. Know who you are. Find that positive affirmation that works for you. And I'll tell you, most of you will get this, something that always comes to mind. A very wise man by the name of Stuart Smalley. Right? I'm good enough. Nobody knows this one? I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. Right? Why can't we wake up every morning and say that? Affirmations are a great way to change a painful state of mind into a peaceful state of mind, because it helps us recognize who we are. It puts us in that state of mind where we consciously choose our actions and our responses, and we choose them with clarity, with focus, as we do whatever we are called to do at that particular time. So instead of reacting, we're responding. And when we have that clearer state of mind, we're much more apt to release any anger or resentment that might just be kind of hanging out within us, because we're then aware of it. And until we're aware of it, we can't really let it go. So as we choose to accept whatever the situation is, without judgment and without fear, we become much more clear about who we are, about what's going on, about seeing the bigger picture as to what's going on out there, what's happening. Colin Tipping writes in this book, Radical Forgiveness, that we must give up our need to know why and surrender to the idea that God does not make mistakes, and therefore everything is in divine order. That's a tough one to swallow right now, isn't it? And you know what? I know that's the truth. And yes, it's hard, it's challenging to accept that. And I know it's the truth. So there are 3 practical steps to move beyond unforgiveness. We have to own the anger. Ouch. We have to intentionally release it, and then extend that forgiveness. Admitting it can be a little hard. Letting go of that anger, that resentment, that's tough. And forgiving can be extremely difficult. And they're all three of those things are absolutely worth it for your own well-being. I know when I was growing up, I used to hear a lot, and maybe you did too, and I think this is kind of our culture maybe. You can't let them off the hook because they have to suffer. You ever heard that one? If you forgive them, it's the same thing as saying that what they did was okay. And neither of which is kind or true. So we want to counter those myths. We want to inundate our minds with the real truth, with that capital T, God's truth. And with purposeful steps of acknowledgement and release and the help of that divine guidance and strength, we can unearth that path to forgiveness that lies within us. And when we do, we discover the freedom that we so desperately seek to have. We all tend to harbor resentments toward those that we feel have wronged us, whether we've been betrayed by a loved one or rejected by a complete stranger. So most of us know just how difficult it can be to forgive. It's only our inability to let go of those transgressions that prevents us from embracing true peace and happiness, and making our lives seem far less than the incredible adventures that they were meant to be. We aren't meant to be here to be unhappy and to be frustrated and to have problems. That's not what we're here for. We are called to be here with an open heart and to be that beneficial presence to anybody and everybody who's around us, and to share that unconditional love. So don't be afraid to forgive. It's worth it for you. It's not about condoning a wrong action or letting a person off the hook. And it doesn't suggest forgetting an injustice or excusing a person for poor behavior. The objective is not intended to block out our memory of what has happened. It's an avenue for us to personal freedom, to that peace and to balance in our lives. Mark Twain wrote this: "Forgiveness is the fragrance the violet sheds on the heel that crushed it." Isn't that beautiful? So really it comes down to this: do we want to live in love, in peace, in joy, in harmony and balance in our lives, and enjoy our life? Or do we want to live in that anguish, that anxiety, and that fear? We get to choose. It is always up to us. Forgiveness helps us grow as a human and as a spiritual being, if we allow it to. So I invite you to, during the week, really look deeply at the idea that divine purpose and harmony is in every situation that we see or experience, and that we do indeed have the choice to feel peace in each and every present moment. And thank you for being here while I shared this truth as I understand it.